welcome to the Formula WINOL podcast. This week's episode is the Imola Grand Prix, or whatever the very long name for it is, if anyone has it to hand.
Emilia Romagna
Made in Italy.
something.
Yeah, anyway, very long name Grand Prix. This is just a preview podcast for that, so we're going to get straight into it with the news section, just covering. It's not a very busy week, to be honest. In the motorsport world. But first of all, as per always, I'm joined by my two glamorous assistants, Ed and Tom. How you doing today, lads?
Hello, I'm doing good. We've spent about
50 minutes.
Yeah.
I've only been at half an hour. We're going to start. So essentially, the biggest bit of news is that some of the sessions have been rearranged. Not the race or anything like that, but the practice session has been moved on Friday, I believe, by like half an hour.
Yeah,
and
I think it's practice and qualifying.
Yeah, quality's been moved forward now. Because of the funeral of Prince Philip. I do think it's unfortunate that we don't have any support races at a good track like this. And yeah, at Bahrain with Formula 2. But yeah, and then we thought we'd kick things off properly on this podcast with our favourite race at Imola. So who wants to go first on that one?
I don't mind. I'll go for one that is probably, I would say, maybe the most well-known race in terms of just the battle for the lead. It was Schumi and Alonso in 2005. And it was the real sort of showing of the changing of the guard. Schumacher had come off winning, I don't know how many successive championships. Then all of a sudden, this young hotshot named Alonso comes in. Apparently he's still a young driver now, so he stayed young for however many years. But it was a really, really good battle, and I know Imola's a hard track to pass, but Alonso did a very, very good job to keep Schumacher back behind him with new tyres. So that's what I've gone for.
I'll probably go next. I have selected 2004. Didn't watch the race, obviously, because I was 2. But it's iconic for the battle between Schumacher and Montoya, or the lack of battle as Schumacher ran Montoya off the track. And in the press conference afterwards, Montoya called him like blind or something, blind or stupid to not see him. It's quite funny. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good press conference. That's a classic press conference moment. You either got to be blind or stupid not to see me there.
Oh no, he didn't see me. No.
My one would be 2020. I mean, what more can I say? My driver got a podium because he's the best one in the sport in a car that shouldn't have been on the podium.
We are unbiased podcast, if you couldn't already tell.
Yeah, absolutely unbiased, absolutely. And he's going to get a podium this weekend. Actually, he's going to win the race this weekend, so it's all good. Yeah, my favourite one would have been last year. I just think there's a lot of action. With I actually watched the highlights for it the other morning, just because I was very excited about the race this Sunday. And yeah, it was an action-filled race. There was a lot of overtaking. There was the reenactment of the Schumacher versus Alonso battle. No, was it Schumacher? Yeah, but it was Kevin Magnussen and Charles Leclerc, which was a bit different to what it was previously. But
clash of the Titans.
Still a really good race. If there's any quality or lack of production, I do apologise. It's because we're doing it remotely. None of us are currently on the university campus, so
I am.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, you could have gone to the radio studio and called us from there and had a really good microphone then.
No, it still would have been a bad team's quality. So.
Yeah, that's true. So moving on, it is a stacked weekend for motorsport. I'll leave Tom to go through MotoGP if you wanted to talk about what happened last time, because I don't follow motorbikes.
Yeah, sure. So it's Portugal this weekend. The same track that F1 race at in Portugal. And yeah, it's quite an important race because it's the first time that Marc Marquez has come back since last year. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see sort of where he's going to finish and how quick he's going to be able to adapt. And I mean, if he can, he's already missed 2 rounds of the season. If he can come back and win the championship, that will be incredible. And then, yeah, we've got a Brit in Moto2 called Sam Lowes that's been doing very well. He's won the first 2 races of the season. and he's looking really, really competitive. So it'll be sort of good to see him do well, possibly. And then, yeah, Ed, I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about IndyCar. It's the first race of the season this week.
Yeah, it's the Grand Prix of Alabama, I think it's called. It's at the Barber Motorsport Park. I'm gassed for it because IndyCar is just far superior to F1 in every stretch of the imagination.
Ooh.
So it just is. And
Sorry.
yeah, I'm
You didn't say
gassed for
cap.
it.
Sorry, you didn't say cap. I thought
So there is no cap because F1 can be boring and IndyCar is rarely boring. There's a couple new drivers on the grid that you might think of. One big name is Jimmy Johnson. He's joined the Chip Ganassi racing team. And Romain Grosjean, he's made the jump over to, I believe it's Dale Coyne.
Yes,
The
Dale
top of
Coyne.
my head. And Scott McLaughlin, he's signed up with Team Penske. He was meant to race in the Indy 500 last year, but because of COVID stuff, he wasn't allowed over, I think, in the end. But he's here now, and he's racing this year. And as a three-time, it's just supercars. I don't know the name of the series. Just
Yeah, it's changed its name a
V8
lot.
supercars and then
V8
dot
supercars,
V8s and then
Yeah, basically
V-
Australia
V1,
Super.
yeah, Australia Brum Brums. Three-time champion of that, so he should be hopefully putting up a fight and not letting Scott Dixon win again or Joseph Newgarden win again. Someone else, please. Yes, that's his IndyCar.
It's an
Woo.
more exciting sport than F1, but it's the same as F1 as only two people who win.
Yeah,
But
The
I think
the
there's
races are
more
the race.
Yeah, no, they're so much more exciting. But the thing that I just wish more people would win it.
Yeah.
Because like every time I ever watch it, it's normally like the same person. I don't really follow it, so.
But that was mostly just last season. Last season was all Scott Dixon.
But it's all on Sky this weekend, isn't it? They've got like practice and quali as well this
Yeah,
weekend.
it's all on Sky. It has
Yeah,
been.
so I'll probably tune in for a bit of that. I don't think there's any. Is there any football on this weekend? Oh, it doesn't matter anyway. It's totally
The race is on at 8 p.m. I think.
Oh, nice.
Quality is at 11 p.m. the day before Saturday.
And then to round up the contrasts between the stacked weekend and the quiet week of news we've had, there's also supercars in Tasmania this weekend, which again is a very exciting sport. I kind of wish it was more popular over here, just because it's an exciting sport, but it's difficult to have a sport that's popular when every single race is on the opposite time zone.
Yeah, and it's on the opposite side of the ocean, so it's never really gonna.
The globe. So yeah, that's it really for the weekend. That's what is going on. So now we can get into the preview of the actual race. Is it a must-win for Red Bull Racing and Max this weekend? What do you think? Because I think it must be. I think they can't let more points slip.
Yeah, I think it has to be a must-win. It's a different track, Bahrain.
It has to be a 1-2 as well. I think Perez has got to come second. If they're gonna rival, if they're gonna get constructors, then they need both cars on the podium at least, and they need Bottas for like 6th or something.
I think
they need something big.
I think however Perez performs in the next two races will depend how heavily Red Bull focus on a drivers' championship compared to a constructors, because I think they're one of the teams. They don't have a brand behind them like McLaren or Mercedes. I think they would just as much take a drivers' championship than a constructors. Obviously, they take a constructors, but I think the connection that they've had with Max Verstappen, and he's almost been like their sort of, their child that he's grown through their academy. It would be a real sort of a real sort of comeback for them when you think about all the drivers that have recently come, the likes of Kvyat, Gasly, Albon, that haven't been able to, at least in that main Red Bull car, haven't been able to perform. But yeah, it's a high downforce track, so you'd think that there's going to be a bigger gap with their high rake philosophy. But Red Bull just can't drop the ball. They whether it's driver error or team error, they've got to be like 100% spot on this weekend.
Yep. Ed, any thoughts?
I think for me, I don't think it's a must win, because if we're taking to the big picture, it's the second race of assuming everything goes to plan, a 23 race season. I I think in terms of Red Bull's priorities, I think they'd much rather have a driver's championship, because I just don't think a constructors is possible. Nothing against Perez or nothing against Red Bull, but even that second car, no matter who is in it, it's realistically, unless it's Lewis Hamilton
or Daniel Ricciardo.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, or Daniel Ricciardo.
There we go.
I don't think they are in a position to win a constructors, just because of how different that car is compared to Verstappen's, or how whatever the excuse is, but that second car just doesn't perform. So I think they'll prioritise a drivers' championship for Verstappen. I think if he doesn't win this weekend, it still isn't the end of the world, because Mercedes have shown cracks. They always have the 1 or 2 races a season where they slip up, and if Verstappen is there when Hamilton's down in 13th because he's spun out, or they pit under a red flag or something, I don't know, something that they're not allowed to do, like Italy when they when their pit lane was closed last year. If something like that happens and Verstappen's there to take a win when Hamilton has no points, it's wide open again. So to me, I don't think this is a must win, but I would obviously much rather Verstappen wins than anyone else.
Yeah, they do a few sort of silly things here and there, and I think, I think that the fact that the way the regulations have changed means that there's so many more tracks this year where the divide is so much more than it was in previous seasons. So there'll be tracks like, obviously, when, like 2018, for example, when the Halo came in and the regs changed a bit more. Ferrari and Mercedes had really strong tracks each, where the other one just was useless at that track. And I think we'll see a lot of that this year. But I do think that realistically they've got to get back on level terms, because I don't think there's going to be many races this season where Hamilton or Max don't win it. So they've got to try and return it, and they've got to try and make Merc feel that they're under threat. Because sure, they did it for most of the last race, but at the end of the day, you don't get points for how many laps you've led, or whether you got pole or not. You get points for where you finish.
And I think in terms of development, obviously Mercedes will be focusing on their 2022 car, but they will probably still want to develop more than Red Bull, just because they've been sort of put further behind the pack. They've been put at more of a disadvantage with this floor change for this season. So I think, it's maybe not a must win, but I think it is an important race for them. Can they just finally put to bed and have a solid weekend? Another one of the really interesting points here, actually, is how are the other teams' sort of pecking order? How is it going to change with, the midfield and what we'd call like the back 3 teams? How is that going to change from this race to Imola? Sorry, last race to Imola. Is it going to be a massive change, the pecking order, which sort of tells us for this season there isn't really going to be one clear team like we saw last season with the likes of Racing Point that are clearly that there's sort of a clear pecking order,
Yeah, and I mean, I was just going to say, to finish off the previous point, that it'll totally depend on where teams feel like they can drop off and just give up on this year's car. We know that Haas have given up already. This is their last upgrade of the season this weekend. We know that Ferrari are quitting this year's car in about June. But realistically, maybe Mercedes are thinking, if we can pull a massive lead in both championships and then just give up on the car and hope it'll last.
They tend to do that anyway. They tend to give up.
Oh yeah, of course they do. But they've never had rivals this bad since 2018, and even then, 2018 wasn't really that. I mean, they're the second best car all season, but the other team in red kept making mistakes.
Yeah.
In terms of the pecking order going down, I think AlphaTauri will probably be the quickest of everyone else.
Yeah.
Their car was brilliant around the track last year. If Gasly hadn't retired, he would have been on the podium. I'm not even going to argue it, because there's no point. I wouldn't have ended up doing a shoey, which would have been good. That was the day I did have sparkling water as well, and shoes that I was actually wearing. But nevertheless, to be honest, I think that there's a strong chance for a Gasly podium here. I don't think Tsunoda would get a podium. I think Tsunoda will be in top 5. But yeah, I think AlphaTauri, and then I think it'll probably be McLaren next. Alpine and Aston Martin are so hard to predict at the moment. They're like all over the place. So who really knows about them? And I think Alfa Romeo will be in no man's land again, and then Haas and Williams will be wherever they are.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, it's kind of unfair to say Haas and Williams because it's more Latifi and Haas.
Yeah.
Because Russell's, he should be in the Mercedes. He's so talented. But I mean, what do you guys think? Where do you guys think different teams are going to finish? I totally left Ferrari out. I do think Ferrari will probably be behind McLaren because that's kind of where they are. Yeah, they'll be last. They're going to crash into each other at the first corner.
Is that the bold prediction? He's already made his bold prediction.
No, I haven't.
No.
I don't know. I think AlphaTauri will be a lot will happen for them to get a podium. I think obviously things will have to happen. But it could happen. We have seen a lot of instances last year where there were midfield podiums. I think they'll possibly be the third fastest car. I think it will probably be them and McLaren will be very, very close. I think I'd maybe have to put Ferrari again ahead of Aston Martin and Alpine because I believe they're both. I know Aston Martin is. I'm pretty sure Alpine is. They have a low rake philosophy, so they're going to be much better at tracks that require less downforce, the likes of sort of Monza, Spa, those kind of tracks. So I think they're going to be behind. I think we could maybe even see Romeo because both of their cars finished in the top 10. I know things happened the last time he raced at Imola, which meant they could get in that top 10, but they still showed, I think, quite good pace over that weekend. I think they could possibly be ahead in terms of pace of this weekend ahead of the Alpines and Aston Martins.
Yeah, I think Alpha really could pull one out here. I think if they're going to break free of Haas and Williams, they have to do it this weekend because it'll probably be one of their stronger tracks for quite a while.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at what's coming up next in the calendar. Portugal, not going to be a good track for them or any of those teams at the back. And then Spain and then Monaco. The next chance Alpha really have a big sort of push for points would probably be Baku. And that would only be if we had a mental race again.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe Monaco. If Aston Martin and Alpine run into sort of troubles if they aren't able to generate that downforce.
Yeah, I think
it's all about qualifying at the end.
The thing about Monaco is we always hope for something crazy to happen and for there to be loads of not crashes, but like loads of retirements.
Yeah.
And just have like a crazy podium like we had in like the old days, but it just doesn't happen anymore.
No.
Yeah, I think the run of tracks where we're not using like a weird calendar this year and it's pretty standard, there isn't going to be as many tracks. The only real unknowns and the only tracks which will like reveal unknowns will be places like Imola because I don't go to it very often. Portugal probably because again, and I'd imagine Zandvoort as well. Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is so similar to so many other tracks we have on the calendar already that I don't think it's going to bring up any surprises as such.
Possibly not. No, it does have a lot of high speed sections. I think it is very similar to maybe Suzuka where you've got a lot of high speed corners.
Yeah.
I mean, it could still throw up an interesting result because if you think there isn't really any runoff at all,
so I don't think it'll be an interesting race, but the result could be interesting.
Yeah.
So moving on, because we've spoken about Alfa Romeo for a while, can Russell show us the same pace as he had last year? Is that a possibility in this Williams car?
I don't know. I think it is stronger than last year's car, possibly. I don't think they've made the step that they would have wanted to. I think that things will have to happen in the race, like they did last year, for Russell to get any sort of chance at a top 10 finish. I think he'll be sort of, if we have a normalish race, I think he'll be possibly around the Alphas.
Because he was running in the top 10 when he crashed out last time, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I think
he was first, wasn't he? He was like the first behind the safety car or something, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was first behind the safety car, but he was 10th on actual position.
On the road, yeah.
Oh, fair.
But at that point, we'd already had Verstappen, Magnussen, and Ocon retire. So technically, like if we're not gonna, you could argue he's really 13th because there may not be any retirements this weekend. I mean, again, that was under safety car. We had VSCs. It was just a really unpredictable, crazy race. I don't know that Williams have got the same pace. I don't think they're going to score points at a normal race this season. I think they'll score. I think we'd have to have like a Hockenheim. Like how Kubica scored points, always 1 point. It'd have to be something mental like that. Less exciting race than Bahrain. I don't know. Did you boys find Bahrain particularly exciting? I think it was only really so exciting because it's the first one in a long time.
I think for me, it was still the midsection was pretty dull, but it was only really dull because we knew what was coming at the end, and the end was a really good ending. Like we've been wanting that for years, and although it maybe didn't end up the way we wanted it to, in terms of how it wasn't necessarily decided on track, it was still it's still a glimmer of what we can get this season. So I think with how hard it is to overtake it, Imola will be pushed to get a better race this weekend. But I think, like, anything can happen. But for me, I think we're going to wait till at least Portugal for a better race.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think obviously, yeah, Imola, it's a lot harder to overtake. We did see a few sort of good moves at Imola, but I think most of them were after like safety car restarts or virtual safety cars. A lot of them were like manufactured overtakes. Yeah, I think last race was good. I wouldn't say it was like if 2020 where we had like some insane races. I wouldn't quite put it in that sort of maybe Turkey or that sort of caliber of race. But yeah, that was, I think, really something that people have looked over, is that we're finally getting what we've been wanting for quite a few years now, which is one of the drivers out of this crop of this new generation of talent. Your Verstappens, Leclercs, Russells, Ricciardo, possibly even Ricciardo.
I only said that because
that's
what the Renault chief fella said in his Beyond the Grid. He was like, the 4 best drivers in F1 are Ricciardo, Verstappen, Leclerc, and Hamilton.
Which I kind of have to agree with.
I totally agree with that.
I'd maybe put Russell in there as well.
I think I'd put it in that order as well.
Yeah.
No, not Hamilton 4th, but Ricciardo first, definitely. I mean, Bahrain was exciting all the way down the field. Obviously, at the front, we kind of knew what was going to happen, but yeah, any battle for a lead is good because we so rarely get them.
Yeah.
And we got like none of them in 2020. It was all about the battles for third place because we had Perez versus Ricciardo at Nürburgring.
Yeah.
We had Kvyat racing towards the podium at the end of Imola last season.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of good battles for the podium.
Yeah, with sort of Hamilton and Verstappen, the races that, I mean, how many races did Verstappen win last season? Was it because he won Abu Dhabi? I'm just trying to think what other races
he won. I'll give that a Google.
Yeah, because I can't really remember from before Abu Dhabi where else he won a race. But
Verstappen,
from my memory, there wasn't
he
really
won the 70th anniversary Grand Prix.
Ah, yeah, that is right.
I think that's the only other one he won.
But even the races that Verstappen won, there wasn't really a battle. It was just Verstappen was able to get a lead and keep it. There wasn't really much of a battle track.
I'm trying to think. I had a really good. Oh yeah, I've read a really funny stat this week, and it's totally kind of irrelevant to the subject matter, apart from the fact that Bottas is being totally glossed over in the championship battle this year. Yeah. Vettel has the record for the amount of races won in a row, and it is the same amount of races as Bottas has won in his F1 career.
To see it.
How many that is?
Far up that Bottas.
9. It's 9 wins. In a single season. 9 wins in a row in a single season.
Wow. What year was that?
Must have been like 2012, 2013. No, 2013, I guess.
Yeah, because 2013 and 2011 was when he was like really competitive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was going to bring it on to. I had a little look what the strategy was like, because there isn't really, to be honest, when sort of writing up the points for this podcast, there isn't really as much to talk about as there normally is. I think because it's only the second race of the season. Yes, we've got a bit of an indication where teams are, but we're still not quite sure. But last year's race was a 2-stopper. I'm not quite sure whether that was soft, medium, or whatever it was. But I was thinking with the slight changes that they've made to the regulations this year, with sort of the floor cuts. And I think I read an article. I think there might be a new compound of tyre this season, or the tyres are slightly different. Obviously, we're not getting the 22-inch wheels, but I think they still might be quite slightly different. But I don't know whether there might be a bit of a change on strategy this season. If the teams have less downforce, it could make it a bit more interesting.
Yeah, and obviously the easiest way to stop, before we have the budget cap coming in, the easiest way to stop one team having much better downforce than the other is just to restrict all downforce.
Yeah.
Which essentially is a cap in itself, I suppose. And yeah, the final point of the preview is that last year's race was a two-stopper. I think we should change the rules in F1 to that you have to make 2 pit stops in a race, otherwise you get disqualified. Personally, because it just make it much more interesting.
Yeah, I think that's
it's a bit extreme, but they should just manufacture the tyres, so they have to be changed.
Yeah, that would make more sense. I think making it a rule kind of almost manufactures.
Yeah, that would be ridiculous.
But like, yeah, I get what you mean. I'd love that, but I just want refueling back. I know it's really dangerous and all that, but it's the reason why IndyCar is so good, and it's so unpredictable. Like you can't go, this guy has pole, he's going to win the race then, because you just don't know. You don't know if they're going to have a problem refueling, or what strategy they're running with the fuel, or when the yellow flags come out and all that. It's so much different. And it's when you see the classic races back on Sky F1, like last night they were showing the 2008 Italian Grand Prix. You think, damn, F1 was so much more unpredictable back then, just because even though they sometimes showed you how much fuel they put in and how many laps that accounted for, you still didn't know. It was some like when races, when you can't tell where the race is going, that's when you know you've got a good race. And we just need something. Even if they did a similar thing where they had to recharge the batteries in the pit lane rather than braking. I know that's a bit stupid, but if there was a way you could recharge the batteries in the pit lane and it gets you a bit faster, something like that. It's just, we need something like that back, where you pit for a bit longer and it affects the strategy of the race.
I mean, it means that there's 2 elements, isn't it? Because for the last 11 years, it's just been tyres. What tyres do you have? No, I completely agree. I think, that is one of the things that makes, IndyCar and other sports. I'm not sure whether how many other sports sort of do that. Obviously, World Endurance Championship would do it because they won't be able to make it to the end on one fuel tank. But
like IMSA as well. Even I know they're endurance series, but even then, you don't know how long they're going.
Yeah. And I'm not sure whether there's how many other sort of motorsports do it now, obviously, because there are, the risks to it. I think maybe even something like, I mean, I know Formula E, that's kind of people are a bit sort of not really, sure how to feel about that. But I think something like that would be quite interesting, where there's a sort of, even if they don't have to come in, they have to abide to a certain amount of power they're able to use. And so it's, how much do you use your power? Do you go all out at the start to try and get away from people, or do you save it all for the end? I think F1 needs something like that, where it means that teams that are maybe lower down can just go like kamikaze at the start and see if they can get into the top 10,
I don't know about you, and we're now venturing to Formula E a bit, but I don't know about you, but back when they had pit stops and the car swaps, that was when Formula E was exciting for me. I'd watch Formula E then, but now I'm like, I just don't care.
Yeah.
I think pit stops, I think they're just a big part of motorsport, and they need to be more maybe emphasized, because 1.9 second stops are all well and good and great, but it's just kind of like becoming a bit of a side thought, I think.
They do, but I think in both situations, the reason why they have changed into what they are now is because obviously F1 and Formula E, they aren't just sports, they're businesses. And Formula E, one of the sole purposes of Formula E is to sell electric cars and develop the sort of technology of it. And obviously they want to show off that, we can do the whole race in one, we'd have to change cars. It's the same with Formula One. We can look how fast we can change tyres. They want to be the fastest. motorsport to do a pit stop, you know.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, I think it's we have, despite that, we have seen sort of times where motorsports have sacrificed pace in the cars to make it more interesting. You look at, maybe the sort of 2010s, where there was, what was it, 2010 to 2013, where we had the V8s, and they weren't as fast as the sort of when we had the V10s, like 2004, 2003, whatever. But it was like, when I look back at seasons that I've watched, 2010 to 2013, for me that was the golden era of the years that I've watched, because they weren't the fastest cars, but doesn't mean that it wasn't exciting.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's something that F1 just needs to. So, like the speeds are well and good, and being the fastest is great, but I think we just need more. We need to bring back some of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot that F1 could learn from many other motorsport disciplines. And when we see how exciting Formula E was last weekend, there's no reason to hate on it, really. I mean, people just don't like it. If you were to blast out the sound of some like pure 4K audio V12 on the other monitor, you'd be fine.
Yeah.
4K audio.
Yeah, you can get 4K audio.
Can you?
Yeah, 4K audio is just the audio that goes with 4K.
Fair enough.
It just means it's really good. Caught in 4K, talking about 4K audio. Moving on then to our predictions. Are we gonna go? Well, our team to watch and drivers to watch first. Always what
we should probably go over last races.
Yeah, go for it, Ed. You're the one who's got the.
I spent 20 minutes while being spammed memes of Among Us, working out the scores and trying to find where in the podcast from last time we actually did the predictions. But I got there. So I'll quickly just go over who said what, and then I'll say what was right, what was wrong, blah blah blah. We'll start with me because I went first. I said pole Verstappen, with Hamilton winning, Verstappen second, Bottas third, Perez fourth, Stroll fifth, Norris sixth, with a first DNF of Ricardo, because I like trolling these lot. So I got pole for Verstappen right, and I got the top three right, but I got Perez, Stroll, and Norris wrong, and first DNF wrong. So that leaves me on 4 points with a lovely little haul there. We go to Torin. He said Hamilton. Where did I put pole? I'll put pole later on. Okay, Hamilton first, which he gets a point for. Bottas second, he doesn't. Perez third, he doesn't. Ricardo fourth, he doesn't. Perez fifth, he gets a point there. And Gasly sixth, he doesn't get a point. Hamilton pole wrong, and first DNF science wrong. So Torin gets 2 points, and I'll save my breath. Tom got 1 point. He got what was
As
that?
usual.
Yeah, he got Verstappen second, right? Wait,
Most important.
no, third Bottas, right? Verstappen, yeah, these are Verstappen one. All the numbers got me confused. So I lead on 4 points with Torin second on 2 and Tom third on 1.
Yeah, that sums it up really. You're probably gonna win the predictions this season. I think you won last season, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I definitely won it for WINOL Gridiron. Can't remember if I.
Don't even bring it up.
The GOAT podcast.
The goated podcast. The
If
classic.
I make a comeback, it'll only be because I've made I have a string of crazy predictions that end up coming true. That's the only way I'll be able to bring it back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the only way that you'll bring it back.
He's already stunk it one race in.
So yeah, we'll do our predictions after we've done. So what would you, if you took one team for your team to watch this weekend, who would you pick?
Trying to think. I think I'd have to go for. Alfa Romeo, because they were really, really strong in that first race, and in terms of pace wise, just dropping off the sort of inside the top 10 and just outside of it, the gaps were very, 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 very small. The likes of Snowder, Stroll, and I think it was Kimi and Giovinazzi just behind that, possibly. But yeah, in terms of pace, they were right on the money. coming to a different track, can they get ahead of some of the cars in terms of pace, and can they get possibly maybe even a double points finish?
Yep, I imagine so. I do think we'll see a surprise double points finish, and then like a lot of teams with one car in the points, because I do think that, I don't know, I think Ferrari might have a stinker, but their car's a lot better than last year, so they're one of the teams that you can't really go off of. That would, it'd kind of be fitting if they have one car retired, because we are in Italy.
Yeah.
Ed, who's your team to watch?
I think for me, I'm probably going to ruin someone's day by saying this. I'm going to go AlphaTauri. We discussed it earlier. It's probably a bit of an obvious choice, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think their performance last year was really strong, and I think they're going to replicate it. I think their car is probably the most similar to their previous year's car. Don't know if that's a bit of a stretch, but yeah. So yeah, I think that is how it's going to go. I think there will be a good race for AlphaTauri this weekend.
Yep, and mine is also AlphaTauri. Me double merching it out in public yesterday with an AlphaTauri hat on a McLaren mask. I'd love to say McLaren is my team to watch, but I can't, because I think this is just an AlphaTauri track. I think their car is just works it. My driver to watch, therefore, is Pierre Gasly. My other driver to watch is Daniel Ricciardo, because we've got plural on drivers to watch. Not sure why, but no, for real, I think Gasly's gonna get a podium here, because Max never gets podiums in Italy. He's never had one in his F1 career. So I don't see that changing.
I think Max is going to win this weekend. I think with a perfect segue into our predictions, I'd say.
Nice.
So yeah, I guess I'll start with my top 6. So I'll go pole first. I'll go pole Verstappen. I think he's get a pole. Then top 6 of Verstappen, Hamilton. I'm gonna go Perez 3rd, Gasly 4th, Tsunoda 5th, Bottas 6th. And a first DNF, I'll just keep it simple and go Mazepin. I want the points.
It's like, have you listened to Julian Palmer's reaction to Mazepin during qualifying?
Yeah, yeah.
I listened to it yesterday. I was like,
Oh no.
Gee. You said your pole sitter, didn't you?
Yeah,
Verstappen. Yeah, I thought you did. Because I don't know why I thought. Anyway, Tom, did you want to go next?
Yeah. Are we saving our crazy predictions until the very last?
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go for a Verstappen pole and a Verstappen win. I think he's going to break the duck of not being able to get any sort of silverware in Italy. I think P2. I do think Bottas will out-qualify Hamilton, but I don't think he'll finish ahead of him. I think I'm going to put Hamilton P2. I think I'm going to go for a boring Bottas P3, as we've seen that combination so many times on the podium now. I'm going to go for Perez P4. I think if he doesn't have any problems, I think he could be, ahead of the midfield. P5, I'm going to go for Gasly, and then we are doing a top 6, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I'll go P5 Gasly, and then P6. I don't know. I think it could really be anyone. I think Tsunoda won't. I don't think Tsunoda will get 6th. I think he'll possibly be a little bit off Gasly. I think I would maybe have to say. I think I might have to go with Ricciardo, just because of their diffuser for this year. I was tempted to pick Leclerc, but I think in terms of raw pace, I think the McLarens are slightly ahead.
Nice. I like that. McLaren in the top 6.
Yeah,
and it
I had to do it for the agenda.
Oh yeah, the masterminds. Right. So, I think I was just thinking now. Actually, Ricciardo, if he won at Monaco, he'd have won at all his teams, but he didn't win it at Renault. He would have won it last year at Renault, but they didn't race in Monaco. My pole sitter, I'm gonna pick Verstappen.
We're exciting, aren't we, with our qualifier?
And then I'm gonna pick Hamilton to win.
Oh.
Verstappen 2nd. so he'll break his Italy duck as such. Gasly third, Perez fourth, Bottas fifth, and Ricciardo sixth.
Nice. There we go.
I think
Got
Tsunoda
to
will
have
be in the top 10, but I don't think he'll be in the top 6.
No, I think because he's a rookie, because of the experience, I think I think it will possibly, he could even get seventh. I think he could be right just outside that. I don't think I said a first DNF, did I?
No, I didn't either, but you say yours first.
I'm gonna go first DNF. I'm trying to think who I've put, I'm trying to think who I've put in the top 6, so I can't choose them. I'm going to go with I think I'll go with Latifi. Why not?
Nice. I'm gonna go with Giovinazzi.
Ooh. Breaking Italy's hearts. But
I don't think they'll care that much.
no, probably not. I guess we got the crazy predictions. I don't really have one lined up. I don't know whether either of you two do.
I don't specifically. I think because I forgot to note them down, so I feel like we just make them and don't score them.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I'm gonna say Ferrari only have one car in the points.
Is that bold enough?
That's
they had a double point score last.
Because I think if nothing crazy happens, you've got the top 4, and then you've got AlphaTauri.
All right. Well, then my bold prediction is that Ed's gonna miss the race, so then I can score the.
Yes, because I am. That's not bold.
Okay, someone else make theirs first, because I obviously just don't have any imagination right now.
I'll try and think of one on the spot. I'm going to go for. I think that. I'm trying to think of like an interesting one that is bold enough. I think someone will recreate what happened at like the Schumacher Alonso. I think someone will try to go around the outside of someone else of that corner.
I thought you're going elsewhere with recreate, and I'm really glad you did.
No.
Oh, really?
2005, nice one, Ed. And then yeah, is that bold enough? Would we say?
No, I'd give that.
Yeah, and I'll say that they won't DNF, but like they'll just get pushed off the track completely.
Nice.
Really
my
nice.
prediction is that at least two teammates will collide and one of them will retire. But I don't know what team and which driver's going to retire.
I think you have to come up with at least a team for that one to be.
Haas, because both the drivers just can't drive that
car. Close enough.
I don't think Schumacher's that bad.
HASS.
Schumacher's
car has no balance to it, and Mazepin is Mazepin. No,
oh yeah.
That's too bad.
Glorious agenda. Right. Ed, do you have a crazy prediction before we get cancelled?
Not gonna lie, I can't think of anything, so I'll probably just go. Someone will end up upside down. I'm just gonna go with that.
Are you gonna say like a corner or a driver?
Oh, surely that happens once every like 4 years at most. How is that?
It happened like twice in one race last year.
I'd say once every year.
We usually have it once a year, yeah.
Well, okay, when I say they go upside down, they stay upside down. Not like they just do a barrel roll. They stay upside down. And fine, it'll be at that fast right-hander in the middle sector. You know the one where
it must be just about every year. Because Ericsson did it in 2018.
Yeah.
Someone did it in 2019, I swear. 2020 we had happened twice in one race.
And you had Hulk as well.
Yeah, Hulkenberg turned it 2018.
Well, I think that's about it for this podcast. Enjoy the stacked weekend. If you happen to have all the channels to watch on, then enjoy it. Tom, I'm sure you'll be enjoying just about every second of
I'll probably be watching
vehicles on track
because I have nothing else planned.
But for the rest of you, enjoy it, and Tom, of course, enjoy it, and Ed as well, who's on mute because his microphone went full 5 minutes. But yeah, thank you for listening. Cheers, and that.
See ya.